to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. An elderly man is found dead in the living room of his home. There's a single bullet hole in his chest. On the surface, it appears the man took his own life, but the evidence points to the opposite. Your job? Investigate.
More and more smokers coast to coast are saying this about king-size Fatima every day.
They're different. Better.
They are different. So pleasing.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality. You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, January 10th. It was cold in Los Angeles. We were working a day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. It was 8:25 a.m. when I got to the police academy, the doctor's office. Morning.
Morning. Can I help you?
I'm checking in for my annual physical.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see here. Name?
Joe Friday.
Let's see. Friday, just like the day in the week?
Yeah, that's right.
Friday. Can't seem to find it. You sure you were notified?
Yeah, the teletype was posted in the office a couple of days ago. Annual physical exams. My name was right near the top of the list. Friday.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here you are. Joseph Friday.
That's it, yeah.
Well, all right, Friday. Let's get your name down here.
Okay.
Your age?
34.
Where do you work?
Central Homicide.
Serial number?
2288.
2288. Okay, Friday, you want to step this way?
All right.
Slip off your shoes, your coat, and shirt.
Okay. Well, they keeping you busy?
Oh, pretty busy, yeah. 4,500 men in the department. Everyone has to have an annual physical.
Mm-hmm.
Better get you weighed and send you along inside. Doc's probably ready for you by now.
Okay.
Over here. Oh, never fails. Dr. Vance's office. Who's that? Oh, yeah, just a minute. It's for you, Friday, your office.
Oh, thank you. Friday talking.
This is Ben. Joe, you about through over there?
No, not quite. I haven't seen Doc Vance yet. What's the matter?
Dead body call out by Westlake Park. Radio car's out there now.
No one else in homicide to handle it?
Not right now. They're pretty busy. No use you coming back to the office. Why don't you meet me out there? It's 9320 Laurel Lane.
All right, just a minute. Have that pad, Doc. Thank you. 9320 Laurel. I got it. What's the story?
Old man was found dead in his living room. Bullet hole in his chest.
Hmm?
Men in the radio car said at first it looked like the old man had killed himself. They're not so sure now.
How do you mean?
They think he had some help.
8:45 a.m. I left the doctor's office at the police academy and drove to the Westlake area where I met Ben in front of the cottage where the dead body had been found. We went inside and checked with one of the men from the radio car who was standing by. The dead man was identified as Martin Latimer, age 68, a retired owner of a couple of neighborhood grocery stores in the city. He was lying sprawled on his side on the floor. There was a bullet hole in his chest just above the heart where the slug had entered the body. There was another larger wound in the back, through the left shoulder blade where the bullet had emerged. Approximately 8 feet across the room from the body was another chair. There was a Winchester rifle wired firmly to the top. its muzzle pointing directly above the spot where the body lay on the floor. A thick white string was found wound firmly around the trigger of the rifle. It ran through a metal ring on the stock of the gun and stretched across the room where it had been tied to the dead man's right index finger. At first glance, it seemed like an obvious suicide arrangement. Officer Harkness, one of the men in the radio car who had answered the call, took exception.
I don't know, Sergeant. Maybe I'm all wet. Just doesn't gel right for me. Who discovered the body, Harkness? Next-door neighbor, Mrs. Donworth. My partner's with her now. You fellas call the crime lab?
Yeah, they're on their way out. Was the old man the only one who lived in the house here?
Yeah, that's what the neighbor told us. Sure like to see what the crime lab crew's going to think of it.
Well, what's the big question, Harkness?
Well, I know it's none of my business, Sergeant. You fellas are the detectives. I just couldn't help but notice, though.
What's that?
Well, come here. Now, over here, this rifle wired to the back of the chair.
Yeah.
Now, take a sight along the barrel of the rifle. See what you think.
Right through the sight, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Pointed right above the arm chair over there, isn't it? It's in a
Yeah.
straight line with the body.
Uh-huh.
Well, that much fits. The old man pulled the string tied to his index finger, and it set off the trigger. Took the slug through the chest, you know?
Yeah, that's what I figured. Now, here, take a look at the wall directly behind the old man.
Yeah?
The slug went clean through the body, we know that. Through the chest above the heart, then out through the shoulder blade.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Now, here, now, take a look at this wall here. Got a mark on it.
Yeah. One thing, sure, if the old man was shot in that position, the slug had to come this way.
Well,
Pass through his body right about this height here.
Uh-huh.
We ought to find the bullet hole in this wall. Right around here.
yeah, it ought to be. Not a trace of a slug there. Not much chance it could have been deflected, do you think?
Well, that's what I thought. It's a 30-30 Winchester, enough power to go through a couple of plaster walls.
Well, we know the slug went through the body. It's got to be somewhere in one of these four walls.
Take a look over here and see what you think.
All right.
Down here near the corner of the wall.
Where?
Well, right here.
Yeah, it looks like it. Ben?
Well, something's out of kilter. The rifle never could have thrown the slug this far down on the wall. Not the way it's wired to the chair there.
And besides that, it's way out of line, at least 4 feet, the way I figured here.
Well, I know it's none of my business, Sergeant. I couldn't help but notice it, though. You want me to stand by outside?
Yeah, okay, if you will. Would you mind checking with your partner? See if we can have that neighbor lady brought over for questioning, would you?
Right, I'll check with him now.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to take another look at that rifle.
Well, it sure doesn't add up too well, does it? Even if the old man jerked the gun when he pulled the trigger with that string arrangement, the slug couldn't have passed through his chest, out his back, and then hit the wall where it did.
Well, stand just behind the body, will you, Joe? See if it's possible to line it up.
All right, what about here? Look about it to you?
Yeah, that's good. Let me see here. No, not a chance, Joe. It's way out of line.
Uh-huh.
That's the gun that killed him. The old man didn't pull the trigger. Not from there, anyway.
Well, there's one other chance.
Yeah?
Somebody pulled it for him. Lieutenant Lee Jones arrived with his crime lab crew and went to work. We put in a call to the coroner's office, and then the dead man's neighbor, Mrs. Elsie Donworth, was brought over for questioning. She was a chubby, matronly lady, about 45. She told us she'd been a neighbor to the aging Martin Latimer for more than 10 years.
I take it you knew Mr. Latimer pretty well, ma'am.
Yeah, I suppose. Didn't have any relatives, poor man. All alone. He was in the grocery business for years. He made some nice money, I guess. Retired about 8 years ago, sold both his stores. Had an income from a mortgage on one of them. $150 a month. Yeah, he was very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a penny pincher at all, but he was thrifty. It was the same way with my husband, Claude. He used to say, take care of the dimes and the dollars will take care of themselves.
Well, Mrs. Donworth, can you think of any reason why Latimer would want to take his own life?
Oh, I suppose. And poor old man's getting along in years. For a long time there, he was afraid he was going to die with cancer.
Is that so? Did Mr. Latimer have cancer, do you know?
Oh, no, he kept thinking he was going to die with it. Could you come next door to my place while I get some of my laundry out? We could talk there. It's just across the yard.
All right, ma'am, that'll be fine. Hey, do you want to tell Lee Jones will be next door, Ben? Guess you better let Harkness know, too.
Yeah, right. I'll tell him.
Thank you.
About that cancer business, officer, Mr. Latimer was always talking about it.
Yes, ma'am.
He finally went to a doctor about it. That was last week only. He came back and he told me the doctor said for him not to be so silly about it. He was a well man in good health.
When was the last time that you saw Latimer, ma'am?
Day before yesterday. Oh, we laughed and joked over the back fence.
Mm-hmm.
Poor old man. He had such a nice smile. Reminded me a good deal of Claude. That was my husband.
Well, I'd like to have your honest opinion, Miss Donworth. Do you think Mr. Latimer killed himself?
Well, I suppose that rifle in there, that terrible contraption.
Joe, I wonder if I could talk to you a minute.
Yeah, okay. Would you like to go on ahead over next door, ma'am? We'll be right with you.
All right, officer.
Thank you very much. We'll be right there, ma'am. Yeah.
Crime lab crew's having a field day. They say if the old man shot himself with that rig, it ought to make Ripley's call.
They find anything definite?
Dusted the rifle for fingerprints. Didn't find a warrant. How about that?
Yeah, well, it makes less sense than that slug buried in the corner of the wall, doesn't it?
Sure does. Checked the desk in the living room, found some correspondence Latimer was having with some woman through a Lonely Hearts Club.
Yeah? You find any reason why he'd want to die?
Pretty good reason why he'd want to live.
Huh?
Found a photograph. Beautiful girl. Looked to be about 24 or 5.
What about it?
She was going to marry him.
The crime lab crew continued their routine investigation of Martin Latimer's cottage. They removed a .30-30 slug from the corner of one wall. Ben and I went next door to question the neighbor, Mrs. Donworth. There didn't seem to be any common ground at all between the evidence in the house and the information that she had to offer. As we continued questioning her, Mrs. Donworth remembered that a month before, Latimer had told her that something might happen to him and he wanted to make out a will. He asked if she would witness the will. A few days later, Latimer's lawyer came to the house and Mrs. Donworth witnessed the signing. At that time, she said Latimer made the remark, "I don't feel like going on much longer anyway. If death means arrest, I think I deserve one." Mrs. Donworth kept busy with the laundry while we interviewed her.
Could you let me get by to the mangle, officer? I have to get some of this ironing done.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I'm afraid there's one thing I don't remember you telling us, ma'am. Did you hear anything out of the ordinary going on next door or this morning or last night?
No, nothing I noticed anyway. Officer, did you see that knob on the washer, the one on the left?
Oh, you mean this over here?
Yeah, just lift it up and turn it around to off, please. It says off right there in the dial.
Yes, ma'am, I see. There you are.
Yeah, thanks. No, there was nothing I heard from next door to remark about. Of course, it's so noisy around here that time of morning you can't even hear yourself think anyway.
How's that, ma'am?
Trucks passing by up and down every morning. They're not small trucks either. They start in at 6 a.m. and they rattle past for 2-3 hours, please.
The first good explanation we've had on this thing.
Could you give us the names of some of the other people on the street who knew Mr. Latimer pretty well, Mrs. Donworth?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't think any of them knew the poor old man as well as I did. Most of them are younger folks, parties and things. When you get up around 65 or past it, like Mr. Latimer, parties don't mean so much anymore.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Yeah. Just a nice, quiet home with a good heating system. Good books on the shelf. Good man around the house. That all you can ask for?
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you very much. We'll leave our card here in case you want to contact us for any reason.
All right, officer.
There's one more thing, Mrs. Donworth. We understand Latimer was corresponding with several women through a Lonely Hearts Club. Did he ever mention that to you?
No, he never did. I found out from the mailman. He's a regular gossip.
Uh-huh. And Latimer never mentioned any of the women that he corresponded with. Is that right?
Well, I pretended I didn't even know about it. He never brought it up. Don't understand why he'd want to meet a lady that way. All most of them are looking for is a man with money so they can quit work and lay around the house.
Well, thanks again, Mrs. Donworth. It's been very helpful.
Yeah. Poor old man. I wonder what made him write letters after silly women. Little good they'd have done him. He wrote letters all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
Getting tired of working myself. Could have saved the postage, too.
Beg your pardon?
I was right next door. Would have married him in a minute.
We left Mrs. Donworth's house a few minutes past noon, and we went back next door to Latimer's cottage. The crime lab crew had finished their investigation, and the deputy coroner arrived. He took the body downtown for autopsy. We talked over the crime lab findings with Lieutenant Lee Jones, and he felt the same way that Ben and I did. The theory that Latimer had shot himself to death was possible in many respects, but it was far from plausible. We checked through Latimer's correspondence with the women that he'd contacted by mail through the Lonely Hearts Club, especially the young girl he obviously intended to marry, judging from his letters to her. Her picture showed her to be a brunette, dark eyes, young, and very attractive. The inscription at the bottom read, "With love, Catherine." There was no return address on either the photo or the letter. Ben called to check with the Lonely Hearts Club.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's all right. We'll probably be dropping down to talk to you. Yes, boy.
What'd they say?
Might be it, Joe. Club secretary says they've been having trouble with somebody who signs their pictures just like this one. With Love, Catherine.
Uh-huh.
I described the picture, and the secretary says it's the same girl.
What's the angle?
The girl doesn't belong to the club, but somehow she got a list of the members and their addresses. She writes to them, usually old men, gets them set for marriage, and they send for her.
Huh?
Her letters come from the east, from different cities. She writes and asks for a train fare out here. The men send her the money for clothes and train fare, and that's the last of it. She's gone.
Oh, it adds up all right. And this one letter here. This one. I hate to ask you, dear, but if you could send me the traveling money and just a little extra for some clothes, I will take the first train and be with you in a week to become your wife, awaiting that precious moment and so on.
Kind of pours it on thick. What's the date on there?
Let's see. December 30th. It's 12 days ago.
What do you think?
That's possible. She could have showed up, tried to grab all the old man's money she could find. Maybe he caught her at it. She killed him, rigged up this phony setup to make it look like Latimer shot himself, huh?
And to hold more water if we could find out she really came here. Maybe we better start ringing a few doorbells. The other neighbors might come up with something. What do you say?
Well, let me see that girl's picture again, will you?
Yeah. No photographer's name.
Now, look in the back here, Ben.
Yeah?
No, down here in the corner. Right in the corner of the picture mounting.
Oh, yeah. XXX6Y3. Must be some kind of manufacturer's marking. Photography supply.
Uh-huh.
Guess it stands for the type of paper, huh? You know anything about the photo business?
No, I don't.
Neither do I.
Let's find somebody who does, huh? Before we drove back to the office, Ben and I covered the rest of the neighborhood and talked to everybody who knew the dead man, Martin Latimer, even remotely. They told us nothing that we didn't already know. There'd been no strangers seen visiting the old man. No one had noticed anything out of the ordinary in Latimer's daily routine. 3 o'clock that afternoon, we checked with the police photo lab. They told us that the symbols stamped on the cardboard frame of the photograph signed Catherine were symbols used by a photo supply company up in San Francisco. We went back to the office and got in touch with the San Francisco firm. We were told that the symbols indicated the style and the size of photographic mounting, and further, that this particular type of mounting was distributed only throughout 7 western states. They gave us a list of 18 photo studios in Los Angeles who kept that particular mount in stock. It was a long chance, but we started checking them out. Meantime, we'd run the girl through R&I and gotten out an APB, seeking information on her. 3 days later, Ben and I had checked out 10 of the 18 photo studios on our list. The 11th was the M&Y Family Portraits on Melrose.
Yes, sir. Can I help you? Police officers, would you mind taking a look at this photograph here, please? Let's see. Would you like an enlargement? Got a special price on enlargements this week?
No, sir. We'd just like to know if you can identify this girl, that's all.
Oh.
Well, do you recognize her at all, sir?
I know her. Sure you wouldn't like an enlargement?
You're in a cruiser car of a Metropolitan Police Department. You receive a routine radio call.
All units, attention all units. Pick up and hold for investigation the following vehicle. 1948 Ford, 2-door sedan, black white sidewall tires.
There are many cars that fit this description. You listen for more facts.
This car will have extensive damage to right front end. License number 9 Robert 9 707. In the 7 column, 9 Robert 9 707. KMA 367.
Now you can pin it down to 1. It's the same with cigarettes. There are many king-size brands to choose from. But when you know all the facts, you'll make your choice, Fatima.
Here are those facts. Fatimas are the same in length and circumference as any other king-size cigarette. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma. Remember, Fatima gives long cigarette smokers all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Next time, insist on the best. Buy Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Saturday, January 13th, 1:35 p.m. We showed the photograph of the girl to the proprietor of the photo studio on Melrose Avenue, and he identified her as one of his customers. He told us her name was Doris Chambers. She was 22 years old and a postgraduate student in chemistry at the university. She came from a fairly well-to-do family, and her father was the president of a local neighborhood bank. She didn't even come close to the type of girl that we were looking for. We got the address from the photographer, drove out to the home, and interviewed the Chambers girl. She gave a younger appearance than she did in her picture. She couldn't recognize the handwriting on the photo, nor did she understand the inscription with Love, Catherine. After questioning her, it became apparent that she knew nothing at all about 68-year-old Martin Latimer.
I wonder if you'd mind taking another look at the handwriting on the picture, miss. Is it familiar at all?
No, I couldn't be sure either way. Seems like I've seen it, though.
Well, when did you say you had this picture made, miss?
About a year ago at graduation. My mother had extra copies made up. She liked it. I didn't care for it much.
Could you tell us how many people have prints of this picture?
Mama had 24 copies made up. She took 12, and I took 12.
Mm-hmm.
She sent them to relatives, friends of ours. Kept a few.
What'd you do with yours?
Sent them to friends, girls at school, a few of my boyfriends.
Can you remember if you autographed any of them?
Yeah, some of them. The ones from my girlfriend. Others I gave out plain.
Well, can you try and think who you gave those to, miss, the unsigned pictures?
One went to Carl, I know that. And Ray, and Fred and Don, and Warren. I think that's it.
I wonder if we could have their full names and addresses, please.
Yes, all right. I don't know what I'm saving all this junk for. Old letters and... Could I see that picture, please?
Yeah, here you are.
Look, it's the same writing. I thought I'd seen it before.
Ma'am?
This old letter from Warren. See the writing? Doesn't it look the same to you?
Looks close, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have Don Meyer in handwriting check it over. Who is this Warren, Miss Chambers?
Warren White. Here's his address right here.
Yeah, I'll copy it, Joe.
Fine.
Warren and I went to college together. We were engaged to be married for a while, and then I broke it off.
I see.
Warren's a serious boy. He was very thorough, a perfectionist. You know, Sergeant? He never does things halfway.
That's so?
Never known Warren to do anything in his life halfway, not once.
Well, he's going to have a perfect record if that handwriting matches.
What can they do to him?
I don't know, but they won't do it halfway. 2:55 p.m. We left the home of Doris Chambers and drove down Beverly Boulevard to 743 North Clarewood Avenue, an apartment house where the suspect was supposed to be living. We talked to the manager, and he told us that Warren White had moved without giving notice 3 days before, on January 10th, the same day 68-year-old Martin Latimer was found dead in his home. We got on the phone, talked to Doris Chambers again, and she gave us a lead on Warren White's married sister. 7:30 p.m. We met with the sister of the murder suspect, and she told us that her brother Warren had phoned that morning and asked for an emergency loan of $200, which she didn't have to give him. The sister gave us White's new address, and we checked it out. It was one of those run-down, futuristic-style apartment houses built in the mid-30s. It was on a narrow road high above Sunset Boulevard, overlooking most of Hollywood. White wasn't in, and the manager said he wasn't expected back till early the next morning. We had the manager let us in White's apartment. We waited. Midnight. 1 a.m. No sign of the suspect.
No denying it is sure a beautiful view from here.
It's the best in town. Be nice for single fellows up here, wouldn't it? Wouldn't work with the family, though.
Well, how about you, Joe? Why don't you get your mother looking around up here? It'd be a beautiful place for the two of you.
No, I don't think Ma'd ever leave the house. She's been there for 40 years. I guess she'll stay there till she dies. Would be nice up here, though, wouldn't it? What a view, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you try talking her into it? You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I might do that. Why don't you slide up one of the windows? Get a little stuff in here.
Yeah. Oh, smell that air, huh? That's great.
Yeah. What time you got?
1:45. Oh, it's a long night.
We waited. 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 4:30. It was cold, and still no sign of the suspect, Warren White. 5 a.m., 5:30, 6 a.m. The sky was getting light over in the east. 6:30, 7 a.m., 7:30. We kept waiting. No sign of the suspect. We called the office and arranged for a relief. 8 a.m. We could hear groups of youngsters passing by outside, trooping into the main yard of a grammar school just below the apartment house. We kept waiting. At 8:15 a.m., we heard a car pull up in front of the apartment house. Footsteps came down the driveway, up the path, and stopped outside the door. We heard a key turn in the lock.
What is it? What do you want?
You Warren White?
Yes.
Police officer's got some questions we'd like to ask you.
It's all right, officers. Why don't you sit down? I'm not going to give you any trouble.
Huh?
I killed him. Maybe I'll never know why, but I killed him.
You want to tell us about it?
You must have had a reason for it, rigging it for a suicide. Do you have anything against him?
I hardly even knew him. He used that picture of Doris to fool him. Made some good money doing it. I needed it.
You willing to give us a statement about the whole thing?
I haven't anything to hide, officer. The minute I killed him, I knew it was all over. Right there in that 1 minute. I knew you'd come and find me somehow. I didn't know when, but you'd come and find me.
Well, okay, Ben. We better head downtown.
Yeah. What?
It's a great sound, isn't it?
What's that?
The schoolyard.
Yeah.
The kids. Got a great sound to it. Good one.
You want to get your hat?
All right. How can anybody figure it? You start in the schoolyard like those kids down there, running around, yelling. I started the same.
Better get going.
I wonder what it is that happens. An 8-year-old red-haired kid. There must be one down there now. The other kids will grow up, get jobs, work, and die. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
The one kid will end up in an alley with a gun in his hand. How can anybody figure it?
I don't know.
A bunch of kids playing in a schoolyard. Someday one of them's a killer.
Yeah, let's go.
You tell me. What's the answer?
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 2nd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, it's come to my attention that some people have a misunderstanding about the cost of Fatimas. Well, I'd sure like to straighten that out for you right now. The cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarettes you're now smoking. Yes, that's right. Fatimas cost no more. But in Fatima, the difference is quality. Buy Fatima in the golden yellow package.
Warren Thomas White was tried and convicted of murder in the first degree. He received a sentence of life imprisonment. He is still serving his term in the state penitentiary, Folsom, California.
Ladies and gentlemen, to build our strength against aggression, we've got to equip our armed forces with weapons of war and at the same time produce plenty of civilian goods so that we can keep prices down. Remember, the better we produce, the stronger we grow.
Just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next over NBC.
To hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. A gang of hijackers has set up operations in your city. Truckloads of merchandise worth thousands of dollars vanish completely. The criminals know their business. Their system appears foolproof. Your job, stop them.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Now, because of its quality, more smokers coast to coast insist.
Contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself. Today,
you'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Remember, in Fatima, the difference is quality. Next time, buy Fatima.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Saturday, November 8th. It was foggy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from R&I, and it was 11:23 a.m. when I got to room 27A. Robbery detail.
Joe?
Hi.
Where you been, anyhow? I've been sitting here 20 minutes waiting for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been checking a couple of names through R&I. It took a little longer than I figured.
The least you could do is leave a note in the book. I do the same for you. I've been sitting here 20 minutes.
Oh, I told you I'm sorry. What's the matter? You feeling well?
No, I'm all right. I'd just like a little cooperation, Joe, that's all.
Well, what's the matter with you?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I was mad when I woke up. Got a crazy house.
Well, what's the trouble? Did you have an argument with your wife?
In-laws are visiting again. 6 of them.
Oh, where are they sleeping?
All over the place. 4 adults, 2 kids, and a gray fox terrier. He's not even housebroken.
Yeah. How long are you going to stay? A couple of days?
2 weeks. I don't know how I can last it out, Joe. They're crawling all over the place. Kids screaming, dog tearing up the front room, no privacy. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, why don't you just level with them? Ask them if they wouldn't mind staying at a motel for a couple of days. Huh?
I suggested that to the wife this morning.
What'd she think?
That's when the argument started.
Oh.
Hey, I almost forgot to tell you that truck driver finally showed up at Frank Burroughs.
Oh, yeah, it's about time. Where is he?
Took him across the hall to the mug room. Got him checking out some coming-out mug books. Guess we better see how he's doing.
All right. He sure took his time getting here, didn't he?
Yeah, didn't offer any excuses. He's no more help than he was yesterday.
Yeah?
Surly. Not very cooperating. How you doing, Mr. Burroughs? You remember my partner, Sergeant Friday.
How are you, Burroughs?
I got a headache. This is just a waste of time wading through all these pictures. I've been through 2 of these books already. I couldn't identify any of the guys.
Yeah, well, we know it's pretty tedious. We'd just like to have you check through a few more volumes, if you wouldn't mind.
Look, I don't mind giving you a hand when I got time, but I got things to do today. I got something on for tonight. I have to get a haircut, my suit pressed.
Well, this thing's pretty important to us, Burroughs. I know we're putting you out, but we need every lead we can get. We'd certainly appreciate it if you could just give us a little more cooperation.
I don't know what else I can do. I told you everything I know, just the way it happened.
A few more things we'd like to ask you about, sir. Some of the details you didn't make quite clear.
Oh, what details? How do you mean?
Details about the hijacking. Mind going over it again for us?
I laid it out for you the last time you talked to me, just the way it went. It's the same as the rest.
Well, how do you mean the same as the rest?
Well, the other hijackings are the same as those, no different.
You pretty familiar with the other jobs, are you?
Oh, followed them in the paper, read the bulletin the cops got out on them. It's up on the dispatch board in the garage. Is that fresh water in that cooler over there?
Yeah, I think so. Help yourself.
Thanks. Gotta have a couple of aspirin for this headache. Can't take aspirin without water.
Yeah. You've been driving a couple of years for Lavelle Trucking Line. Is that right, Burroughs?
That's right, yeah.
What if you'd mind running it through for us again, Burroughs? Maybe there's a few details about the thing that you forgot to mention, huh?
Well, it won't be any different than last time. I pulled out from the loading dock about 6 o'clock yesterday morning, hauling a load of Scotch whiskey over to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled up for the red light at Alameda and Jackson. That's when the guy pulled open the door and got in next to me. Put a gun in my ribs, told me to look straight ahead. First thing he did was hand me that pair of goggles and tell me to put them on. Same kind the welders use. Front of the lens was covered with tape. I put them on. I couldn't see a thing. Guy took over the wheel and started driving.
Well, did you have any idea what direction you were heading in?
No, not with the goggles on. I tried to follow at first, but I got all mixed up. Couldn't tell where he was driving. Made quite a few turns. He drove about 25 minutes, I guess, before we pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the switching point was. 2 more guys met us there. I could only tell by the voices. They pulled me out of the truck and put me in a car.
Well, can you tell us anything at all about that transfer point? I mean, were there any sounds, anything like that that would give you an idea that maybe where you were?
Well, I figure it must have been someplace out in the valley, pretty far out. No traffic sounds at all, just crickets, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
He got me in that car, drove around about an hour, I figure. Then they put me on out at the side of the road, told me to leave the goggles on for 10 minutes, and then they drove off.
Well, how about those 2 men at the transfer point? If you heard their voices again, you think you could recognize them?
I don't know. I doubt it. They didn't say too much. Not that I heard, anyway.
I'm just curious, Burroughs. How is it you thought of calling your company first instead of the police?
Well, it's their cargo, a whole load of whiskey. If somebody hijacked it, I figure the company ought to be the first to know.
I'd like to ask you just one more question. There's no offense intended here.
Yeah?
You ever been arrested?
Well, why? What'd that have to do with it?
Well, probably nothing at all. Have you ever been arrested?
I'd like to set you straight on it right now. If you think I was working inside on this thing, you got it wrong. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Then there's nothing to worry about, is there?
All right. Yeah, I've been arrested.
When was that, Burroughs?
About 10 years ago, it was back east, West Virginia.
What was the charge?
Hijacking.
Our record showed no previous arrests for Frank Burroughs. For the next few days, he was kept under observation. When we got the kickback from Washington, it showed Burroughs had one previous arrest, the one he told us about, for hijacking. We checked all his friends, relatives, and associates. We found nothing suspicious. His employer said that they were aware of his police record, but they told us that Burroughs was one of the best drivers they had. There was nothing to link him with a series of hijackings which had been going on all over the city for the past month. Our crime lab checked the pair of goggles which Burroughs had been forced to wear during the hijacking. They were an ordinary industrial type, easily obtained and impossible to trace. Other than those belonging to Burroughs, there were no fingerprints on them. Late that afternoon, the missing truck and trailer was found empty in a deserted section of the valley. No latent fingerprints or other physical evidence. 9 a.m. the next morning, we met with Captain Didion.
Cargo's gone, huh? Not a trace of it.
That's it, Skipper. High-grade Scotch whiskey, 150 cases. Got out of Bolton all the liquor wholesalers. The serial number's listed.
That ex-con Burroughs, nothing turned up on him?
No, nothing. We double-checked everything about him. He's clean.
You didn't get a thing off that abandoned truck?
No prints, no physical evidence. Seems like they got it down to a science.
Tell that to Thad Brown. He's getting all the kicks from the warehouse operators. 30 days and 6 hijackings. How about moving faster?
Well, as you know, we got 12 stakeouts running down freight loads, Skipper.
Yeah.
Incoming, outgoing. Got 3 girls in the stats office doing nothing but making runs for us. No new suspect.
We got a meeting with an informant after lunch. He figures he may have something. There's nothing to bank on.
How about an inside tip-off on these jobs? Any indication the gang's working something like that?
No, nothing definite, Skipper. Jobs seem to be pretty well cased, though. We've checked out everybody with a record working for the trucking lines. No reason to think any of them had a hand in it.
Excuse me a minute. Didion. Yeah. Live Oak near Trenton Avenue. Yeah, I got it right. Thank you. We got another truck early this morning.
Where?
There's the location. Better move on it. Looks like they got their signals crossed.
How do you mean?
Doesn't make sense. The cargo they hijacked.
What was it?
A load of toothbrushes.
9:23 a.m. Ben and I drove to the intersection of Live Oak Drive and Trenton Avenue in the Hollywood Hills, where we located the latest driver to fall victim to the gang of hijackers. His story was the same as the others. He'd stopped his truck for a red light at a deserted intersection when a man jumped on the running board and pointed a gun at his head. The man with the gun took over the wheel and forced the driver to put on a pair of blacked-out welder's goggles. Then the truck was moved to a remote spot where the driver was transferred to a car and later released in a remote section of the Hollywood Hills. The hijacked truck was found empty a day later. And again, there was no physical evidence, no fingerprints. The driver could add little to what we already knew. The only point that made the case any different from those that had gone before was the cargo that had been stolen, the load of toothbrushes. We began an immediate check of the neighborhood where, according to the driver, he was first held up. It was a fairly remote intersection in the San Fernando Valley. After 4 hours of interviewing ranchers and gas station attendants, we talked to the operator of a practice driving range for golfers located just off the highway. His name was Fred Garrison.
Matter of fact, I did notice something out of the ordinary this morning. A little before 6 a.m., I think. Spotted this big semi turning off on that dirt road down the highway there.
Which dirt road is that, Mr. Garrison?
Oh, right up the highway there. See it?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
it turns off by that clump of trees?
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't figure out why a big truck and trailer be taking that road. Doesn't make sense.
How do you mean, sir?
Well, it's a dead end. No reason why a driver would turn off there by mistake. There's a big sign right there at the intersection. Says not a through street. Right there. See it? Plain as day.
I wonder if you could describe the truck for us, Mr. Garrison.
Well, it's pretty good size. One of those big aluminum jobs. Black lettering on the side, I think. Yeah, it turned off the highway, went down the dirt road a little ways, and then it turned off into that grove of trees, and the driver cut the lights.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice any activity going on at all?
No, I didn't. Oh, maybe I should have walked over and checked it. I figured it was just some truck driver pulling up to catch a few winks of sleep.
I see.
My boy Dave was with me at the time. Wanted to check it, but I told him to mind his own business. He says a couple of minutes after the truck pulled in, he saw a gray sedan come down the road and park next to the truck right in that same clump of trees.
Well, now, didn't all this look a little suspicious to you, sir?
Oh, I suppose so, in a way. I just don't like to meddle where it's not my business, that's all.
Well, did your boy Dave get a good look at this gray sedan? Do you know that?
You want to come in the office and sit down?
Sure.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, sit right there if you like.
Fine, thank you.
Let's see now. Where were we?
About your boy Dave?
Oh, yeah.
You said that he saw a gray sedan pull in next to the truck over in that clump of trees. Did he mention anything else that he noticed about the car? I mean, other than the fact that it was a gray sedan.
Well, yeah, I think he did say something else about it. Now, let's see. Wasn't listening too close at the time. Dave's doing some errands downtown for me right now. He'll be phoning in pretty soon, though. I can ask him about it then. He paid a lot more attention to the thing than I did.
Well, how long were the truck and trailer and that sedan parked in the grove of trees? Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, not too long. Maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The car pulled out first and took off down the highway away from town. That way, see?
Mm-hmm.
And the truck and trailer left a few minutes after. What do you figure they were up to?
We've got an idea. What time was that again, sir, when you saw the truck turn off the highway onto the dirt road?
About 6 a.m. Maybe a few minutes one way or the other.
I wonder if you'd show us the exact spot where you saw that truck park, would you?
Oh, sure. Here. You want to come over here with me to the window?
All right.
Now, you see the clump of trees there?
Yeah.
Eucalyptus.
Mm-hmm.
They border right on the road?
Yeah.
Maybe that's him now.
All right.
Garrison Fairways. Oh, yeah, Dave. How'd you make out? Oh, fine. No. Listen, a couple policemen here now. They're asking about that truck and that gray sedan you saw up on the road this morning. Want to know what you noticed about the sedan besides the color. How's that? Oh, you did, Yeah? Well, you better head back here. They probably want to talk to you about it. All right, Davy. Bye.
What do you have to say?
Oh, he'll be back in about 20 minutes. I figured you want to talk to him.
Well, how about the sedan, sir? Did you get a pretty good look at it, did he say?
Yeah, I guess so. He got part of the license number.
Fred Garrison's son, Dave, returned and gave us all the pertinent facts about the truck and the gray sedan which he'd noticed in the neighborhood early that morning. His description of the truck and trailer, what he saw of it anyway, matched closely with that of the latest vehicle to be hijacked. He described the car as a gray sedan, and he said it looked to him like it was a late model Nash, but he couldn't be sure. He said the first 3 units on the license plate were 7T7. The location in the grove of trees where the truck had been spotted was checked thoroughly. Outside of some indefinite tire tracks, there was no physical evidence. 4:10 p.m., we put in a call to DMV and asked for a rundown on the 3 license plate numbers. The next morning, DMV returned to us a list of more than 1,000 auto registrations, which began with the figure 7T7. We went down the list and gradually eliminated 600 of these as not being physically close in description to the car seen by Garrison's boy, Dave. We kept checking. Almost 300 more on the list were registered in distant parts of the state. That left us with over 100 vehicles registered in or around Los Angeles to check out. It went slow. 3 weeks passed. We narrowed the list down to 23 possibles. Tuesday, December 10th. We were checking registrations with addresses in the east end of the city.
What's the name on this one again?
Perry. Walter R. Perry.
Garage is straight back to drive. There's a car parked in it.
Yeah. Let's try the bell again, huh?
What do you say?
All right, let's give the car a look.
People sure do get careless. Nobody home, garage wide open, car sitting there.
Qualifies so far.
You want to check the steering post there, registration slip?
I get it, yeah.
Check out all right?
Just a minute.
What do you got there?
Here. Found these under the seat.
Oh, maybe we're home.
Yeah, it's a pair of goggles. Take a look.
Yeah.
Both lenses covered with tape.
You're in the forgery division of the Metropolitan Police Department. Handwriting analysis.
Let's check it against the forged letter. The capitals print evenly. The O's and the A's are clean. No, this isn't the typewriter we're looking for. Yeah. Capitals print high. A's and O's are solid. P's slanted. This is the one.
It's the same with cigarettes. There are many king-size brands to choose from, but when you know all the facts, you'll make your choice Fatima.
Here are those facts. Fatimas are the same in length and circumference. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/164 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance as any other king-size cigarette.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Remember, Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma. You get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes. Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you are now smoking. Next time, buy Fatima.
Tuesday, December 10th, 2:15 p.m. The pair of goggles found in the automobile registered to Walter R. Perry were the same brand and style as the goggles used to black out the truck drivers in all the previous hijackings. Ben and I searched the car, but we failed to come up with any additional physical evidence. We left the garage, checked the house again to make sure that there was nobody at home. Then we went down the street close to the house to where we'd parked our car. We put in a call to R&I and requested a make on Walter R. Perry. He had no previous criminal record. A few minutes later, we spotted two women loaded with grocery bags come down the street, go up the stairs of the Perry house, and let themselves in with a key. We went up to the front door, rang the bell, and the younger of the two women answered. Dark brown hair, blue eyes, about 5'6", 28, 29 years old. We identified ourselves, and she showed us into the living room. She told us her name was Leona Perry and that Walter Perry was her husband. They'd been married 11 years, no children. We asked her where her husband was, and she said he was out of town on a business trip up north to Monte Vista, California. We asked her what line of business he was in.
Well, right now, Walter's a jewelry salesman. He works for himself. Has to do quite a bit of traveling.
Your husband's blonde, about 5'9", 160 pounds, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
How'd he go up north, ma'am, do you know?
Well, I think he went up by train. I'm not sure.
You have any idea how we might contact your husband up north?
No, I'm afraid I don't. He said he had a couple of business appointments in different towns in that area up there. He didn't tell me where he'd be staying. What's it about, Sergeant?
Just a routine check, Miss Perry. Is that a photograph of your husband over there on the piano?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When's he expected back, do you know?
Well, let's see. This is Tuesday. He should be home sometime Thursday.
I see. A minute ago, you said right now your husband's a jewelry salesman. Is that his usual line of work?
No, Walter's a truck driver.
You work here in Los Angeles?
No, he drove for a company up north in the Bay Area, Oakland, Berkeley. He had that job for 10 years, almost from the day we were married.
Mm-hmm.
And then last December, he had a fight with the boss and he quit. We moved down here to find work, but he just couldn't seem to get placed.
How long has he been selling jewelry, ma'am?
Oh, about 8 months, I'd say. He's doing very good at it. We have more now than when he was driving a truck. A lot of money in the jewelry business.
Well, it's just you and your husband living here, is that right?
No, my mother lives with us, too. We just got back from doing the shopping. I guess she's busy putting the groceries away.
I see.
Mom? Ma?
Oh, say that's all right, ma'am. I think you can give us the information we need.
Well, I'd like to know what this is about. I'd appreciate it if you'd tell me. Walter isn't in any kind of trouble, is he?
Just a routine investigation, Miss Perry. Doesn't necessarily mean your husband's involved.
I can tell you right now, my husband isn't involved in anything. Walter's never had trouble with the police in his life.
Walter has trouble with the police? What is it, Leona?
It's nothing, Ma. These policemen want to talk to Walter. They just want to ask him a few questions, that's all. This is my mother, Mrs. Burt. Ma, this is Mr. Friday and Mr. Romero.
I told you, Leona. I felt it all day. Something's wrong. Walter's done something, hasn't he?
Now, don't start on that again, Ma, please. The officers told me they want to talk to Walter, that's all.
What for? If he hasn't done anything, why do they want to talk to him?
Routine duty, ma'am. There's nothing to get excited about.
I knew it would happen. I felt it all the time. That funny job he has, selling jewelry, going out at all hours. Couldn't fool me. I knew it wasn't right. What's he done? We're his relatives. We got a right to know.
Well, there's nothing we can tell you definitely, ma'am. How about these odd working hours your husband has, Miss Perry? What's the reason for that? Could you tell us?
Well, I don't know. Walter works for himself. He just has to make business contacts when he can, that's all. Sometimes it's late at night, sometimes early in the morning. Why don't you stay out of it, Ma? After all, it's our business. Walter's in mine.
You just mark my word, Leona. Find out about this. That husband of yours has done something, and these policemen are after him. I knew it wasn't right. I felt it all along.
No, please stay
And
out.
his jewelry business, his big money. I should have left and taken you with me the day it started. Walter's a truck driver. It's all you'll ever be. It's where he should have stayed.
Why are you always picking on Walter? Why?
Because I told you in the first place you never should have married him. 11 years ago, I told you. I never should have come to stay with you. You couldn't go and marry one of those nice boys you met at school. It had to be Walter Perry. Well, maybe you'll see now. Trouble with the police. Now you'll see what kind of a man you married.
Shut up, Ma. Sorry, officer.
Well, I'm afraid that isn't helping much, Miss Burt.
I suppose not. What is it that can help? You have kids, you try to tell them something, make it easy for them, they never listen.
Now, that gray sedan back in the garage, ma'am, does anyone else drive it besides Mr. Perry, do you know?
No, Leona doesn't drive. Walter's the only one who runs it.
He drives it to all these business appointments he has at odd hours?
That's right. Only times he doesn't take it's when he's out of town.
You ever seen this pair of goggles before, ma'am?
No, I never have. What does it mean, that tape all over the front of them?
Well, how about your son-in-law's friends? Do you ever bring any of them here to the house?
Not since I've been staying here the last 6 months. A lot of different men call him on the phone, and he goes out. Doesn't bring anyone around, though. Oh, I'm just sick of it.
Well, can you tell us anything about this jewelry business Mr. Perry's working in?
I don't even want to think about it. I raised 4 daughters, nice girls, every one of them, attractive. You make plans for them, and you want them to be happy and marry some nice fella, have a nice, comfortable home. You try to tell them, and they never listen.
About the car, ma'am.
They get to be 17, and they know everything. My girls could have married wealthy if they were smart. A lot of other girls have done it. They had nice clothes, they got through business school, good home training, all this talk about love. They're all so smart. They know everything, and they know nothing. This is what happens. They wake up and find out.
Would you finish putting the groceries away, Ma? I'll talk to the officers.
Anything you want, Leona. Didn't mean to upset you. Maybe things will be all right.
And just a few more questions, Miss Perry, that's all.
Well, whatever it is, I know Walter hasn't done anything wrong. He wouldn't do anything wrong. It doesn't make sense. There's just no reason for it.
I remember your father, Leona. 16 years we were married. One night he packed up and left me. There wasn't any reason for that either.
Wasn't there, Ma?
We continued questioning the wife and the mother-in-law of the suspect, Walter Perry. From the wife, we got the names and addresses of 4 close friends of Perry's who were supposed to be associates of his in the jewelry business. In the basement and in a loft over the garage, we found more than a dozen cases of high-grade Scotch whiskey, cases of expensive furs, and other loot taken in the hijackings. Mrs. Perry said her husband told her he was storing the stuff for some friends. It was only a small portion of the take. We called the office and got out a broadcast and an APB on the suspect and arranged for an immediate stakeout on the Perry house. And then, together with Matthews and Gonzalez from robbery detail, we began checking out the 4 close friends of the suspect. We could locate only 2 of them, but those 2 paid off. In the basements and garages of their homes, we found another portion of the loot, along with evidence that showed that both men had taken active parts in the hijackings. They were booked at the main jail on suspicion of 211 PC. A full week went by. The stakeout continued on the Perry house. Still no sign of him. Saturday, December 20th, 4:45 p.m. We checked back in at the office.
This thing's sure dragging out, huh?
Yeah, it'd be nice to wrap it up before Christmas, wouldn't it? Get it out of the way. Might work into a couple of days off.
I don't know if I'm too interested, Joe.
What?
The days off, I mean. We got visitors on the way again.
What do you mean, for the holidays? Who's coming?
Same old bunch. My brother-in-law and his wife and his kids and that little dog of theirs.
Well, they were just with you for 3 weeks, weren't they? What's the deal?
Oh, brother-in-law got home, found a notice from his company. He's been transferred out here.
Oh.
They're going to stay with us all through the holidays, and then they'll start house hunting. How about that?
You've got a problem.
It's got a new rug in the living room. I'll bet 20 to 1 on it, Joe.
What's that?
That little fox terrier. Oh, hi, Skipper. Anything before we check out?
Piece of news for you. Just talked to the Ventura Sheriff's Office. We owe them a favor.
What do you mean?
They grabbed Walter Perry half an hour ago.
Monday, December 22nd. Suspect Walter Perry was returned to Los Angeles. He was taken to the interrogation room where Captain Didion, Ben, and I questioned him for almost 2 hours. He was confronted with the evidence and testimony against him, and after another hour and a half of interrogation, he broke. He gave us a full signed statement describing his part in the campaign of hijackings. He also gave us the names of everyone in the gang, how they participated, and to what extent. He said most of the property looted from the hijacked trucks was stored in a rented barn located at the north end of the San Fernando Valley. A detail of men checked it and confirmed the information. The suspect's wife, Leona, was notified of her husband's arrest. 1:35 p.m. We completed our interrogation.
That's it, Perry. Let's go.
You asked me a lot of questions. How about it? Can I ask you one?
What's that?
Well, why do you think I did it? Why I got mixed up in this?
Well, according to your statements, you wanted the money, isn't it?
Well, you've been out to my house, haven't you? You met my wife?
Yeah, that's right.
I guess you met her mother, too.
Yeah.
Well, then you got it. Nobody in the world could make me go for a hijack deal, but she could. I even remember the morning I'd made up my mind to do it. I was out in the kitchen. I could hear yapping at Leona in the other room, same old roasting.
Mm-hmm.
The lousy truck driver, that was me. 11 years the wife and I've been married. Her mother lived with us, 9 of them. Didn't get any better, didn't get any worse, just the same old yapping, her and her 4 girls. Why couldn't they listen to her? They were the best girls in the world. Why couldn't they marry money? Why did it have to be guys like truck drivers, stupid truck drivers? Same thing every day, always the same. 9 years of it. So I went out to get enough money to rub in her face, enough to make her choke on you. You can hate somebody for that. I don't know how many years they'll give me, but I'm going to hate her, every one. Dad?
Oh, hi, Olson.
Going over to main jail. This one ready to go?
Only be a minute, Rex.
Right.
Thank you. All right, Perry.
Yeah. Sergeant, my wife's been told, huh? She knows about it?
She's waiting outside in the hall with her mother. You can see him on the way out.
Oh, thanks.
Walter.
Hi, honey. I'm sorry.
Walter, why did you do it?
Ask your mother there, honey. You heard as much of it as I did. 9 years' worth. I guess it finally got me sick. She wanted you to have money, so I went out to get it. You come and see me when you can?
Leona isn't going to any jail to see you. I knew it all along. I knew what you were. It's the truth. She never should have married you.
All right, Perry.
Let's go, mister.
Walter. Walter.
Why?
How you figuring?
I don't know. How about some coffee?
Okay. Sure is funny. You see other people sweating it out, your troubles look like nothing. I'm just thinking about it.
What's that?
Those in-laws of mine.
What about them?
Guess I haven't got it half bad.
you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On March 5th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, from our many talks with law enforcement agencies and letters from police officers, we're especially gratified to know that a great number of these men agree with us, that Fatima is the best of all long cigarettes. Now, our latest sales figures back that up. Every week, more and more smokers are enjoying king-size Fatimas, people from every state, from all walks of life. If you haven't tried Fatimas yet, buy a pack tomorrow. In Fatima, the difference is quality. The quality is better, but the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarettes you're now smoking. Next time, buy king-size Fatima.
Walter Richard Perry was tried and convicted on several counts of robbery in the first degree. He was sentenced to the state penitentiary for the term prescribed by law. First-degree robbery is punishable by a term of 5 years to life. His accomplices received similar sentences.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, thousands of people in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Illinois have been driven from their homes by floodwaters. Many are being sheltered and fed by the Red Cross. All Americans are urged to give through their local Red Cross chapters. Your contribution of just $1 will give you a feeling of justifiable pride.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A 30-year-old woman is missing. 3 months pass before her disappearance is reported. There's not a trace of the woman. No lead to her whereabouts. Your job? Find her. In Fatima, the difference is quality.
That's right. Fatimas are different. They taste better.
Yet king-size Fatima costs no more than the cigarette you're now smoking.
And because of its quality, more smokers are now insisting on Fatima than ever before.
You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself today. You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, June 9th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from the stats office, and it was 10:18 a.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Hi, Joe. Been waiting for you.
Hi.
Ma'am, I'd like to have you meet my partner, Sergeant Friday. Joe, this is Miss Daly, Ruth Daly.
How do you do?
How are you?
Miss Daly came in to file a missing report on her sister, Joe. She already talked to missing persons, and they sent her in to see us. Oh, have a chair, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, what's it all about, miss?
I just started to tell Sergeant Ramirez
That's
here.
Romero, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Romero.
Well, it's about my sister Bernice, Sergeant. She's missing. I wondered if maybe you people could help me find her.
Well, what's your sister's name?
Bernice. I guess you want her married name, Mrs. James Butler. Her description would be just about the way I look. Bernice and I are twins.
Mm-hmm. When did your sister disappear, ma'am?
In March. The first weekend in March. She disappeared on a Saturday.
Well, that's 3 months ago, Miss Daly. How is it this wasn't reported sooner?
Well, as a matter of fact, I halfway expected her husband to report it. I talked to him about it when Bernice was gone 2 weeks. He didn't seem too worried.
Is there any reason for him not to worry?
Well, there isn't a way. You see, Bernice has gone off before, about a year ago. She picked up and went to Arizona without telling anybody. When she came back, she said she just wanted to get away for a while. She didn't want to be around here.
Well, how long did she stay away that time?
Almost a month.
Well, how about your sister's married life? She get along with her husband all right?
Well, first 5 years they were married, it worked all right. Then it sort of turned sour. I don't know what happened. They used to be happy.
Well, what was the trouble, do you know?
That's the funny part. I don't. Wouldn't even know who to blame for it, Jimmy or Bernice. Both of them started drinking a lot, pretty heavy. Seemed to me around that time Jimmy began to get a little funny.
I see. Has he ever been violent towards your sister, Miss Daly? I mean, has he struck her or anything like that?
Oh, no. Really, Jimmy's kind of a milquetoast character. Timid, skinny. Most of the time afraid to say boo. Yesterday I went over to the house to visit Jimmy. I tried to make conversation. He just sat in his chair reading a book. Every time I'd mention Bernice, he'd kind of look up and growl at me.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick of it. I put on my coat and started for the door. He followed me.
Mm-hmm. Did he say anything at all?
Yes. When I opened the door, I turned around to say goodbye.
Yeah?
He had this real horrible look on his face. He said it right out loud, plain as day.
What's that?
He said, "You'd be surprised if I killed her, wouldn't you? You'd be surprised."
10:40 a.m. We finished taking a complete statement from Ruth Daly regarding the disappearance of her married sister, Bernice Butler. Before she left, we got the business address of her brother-in-law. A broadcast and a missing bulletin was gotten out, and then Ben and I drove across town to have a talk with the husband of the missing woman, James Butler. We located him at work in a job printing shop on South Vermont, where he was employed as a journeyman printer. He was in his early 30s, thin, blonde hair, light complexion, about 5'7", 125 pounds. He wore a pair of rimless glasses. Ben and I introduced ourselves and began to interview him. He was close-mouthed and not too cooperative. He seemed to resent every question we asked him. While we talked, he worked over a paper-cutting machine.
You'll have to admit it's a little out of the ordinary, Mr. Butler. Your wife missing 3 months and you acting like she's been gone 3 hours. Did you hear me, Butler?
I heard you.
Well, what about it?
Just a minute.
Well?
You know, it's not ordinary her going away. I'm married to her. I know my own wife.
We talked to your wife's sister this morning, Ruth Daly. She seems to think you might know all about your wife disappearing.
She does?
That's right.
In my way, I got to get that other set of cards.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. There's something wrong with him.
Sure got a big grudge for somebody his size.
I wonder what that girl meant when she called him bashful.
Yeah, about as bashful as a wild boar in a plum thicket.
In my way, I got to get in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't got any spare time to talk. I have to get this order out.
It'll only take a few minutes if you'll be good enough to cooperate.
I haven't got the time, that's all.
It's almost your lunch hour, isn't it? Suppose we can talk then?
Got no time then either. Why don't you talk to Ruth? She seems to know it all.
Now, listen, that's about enough of this, mister. We ask you civil questions, we expect civil answers. If you think this isn't important, change your mind. Your wife's been gone for 3 months. Nobody's seen or heard from her, and it's our job to check it. Now, you can talk to us here or downtown. You take your pick.
Have to finish up this batch first. We can talk out in the alley and back. I want everybody knowing my business.
That's fine with us. You do what you have to do. We'll wait for you.
Sure is aching for an argument, huh?
Yeah, I wonder what his big trouble is.
Maybe a hangover. Looks a little used up.
Yeah, could be.
If he had something to do with his wife's disappearing, you'd think he'd try to cover the way he's acting. He doesn't seem to care what we think.
Well, let's see what kind of a story he's got.
Okay, it's this way, out back.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
You ever been arrested, Butler?
Nope. Almost a couple of times. They couldn't get me.
What kind of trouble were you in?
They said they didn't get me. I'm not going to put myself in hot water.
We'd like to find out how your wife was before she disappeared. Do you know of any reason why she'd go off the way she did? Any reason why she'd stay away 3 months without any word?
No, I don't know any reason.
Well, how about your relatives, your friends? You checked to see if she might be with one of them?
They'd call if she was.
You never checked with them?
No. I think Ruth did.
You have any big arguments with your wife, Butler? Around the time she disappeared, I mean?
We had them all the time. She bothered me. She was too fresh. I beat it out of her.
That's so.
You got to. Give him a little freedom. They think he can take over. Nag him, tell you what to do, what not to do. Sick of it.
We'd like a straight answer here, Butler. Did you want your wife out of the way?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, do you know why she's missing?
Could be a lot of reasons. Might know one.
Did you kill your wife, Butler?
It'd be silly to tell you that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Did you kill her?
Only one way I'll say yes to that.
Yeah?
When you prove it.
Well, it wasn't easy to understand. From the way it started, our interview with James Butler would get us nothing. We had no evidence against him, nothing to indicate definitely that his wife had met foul play, nothing but a suspicious remark he was supposed to have made to his sister-in-law, Ruth Daly. But once we'd left the print shop and got out in the back alley where he couldn't be overheard, he was full of information. Besides telling us that he'd beat his wife, Butler also admitted that he'd threatened her life on several occasions, twice in the presence of friends. He seemed to take some kind of a peculiar pride in admitting how violent he'd been with his wife. Ben and I took him downtown, questioned him further, and listened to him talk. He made veiled hints that he'd been involved in various criminal activities in this country and also in Europe, that he was a close friend with a half a dozen notorious underworld gang leaders, that he was ruthless and clever enough to dispose of his wife if he wanted to and still avoid prosecution. While we were talking, Ben had James Butler's name and description double-checked through the Record Bureau files. There was no previous criminal record listed for him. As far as we knew, at no time had he even been held under suspicion in a criminal investigation. The next day, together with Brian and Lopez from Homicide, Ben and I made the rounds of Mr. and Miss Butler's friends, relatives, and neighbors. 4:25 p.m. We got back to the office.
Oh, hi, Lopez.
Hi, Ben, Joe. What's doing?
Nothing great. How'd you two make out?
Yeah, it's a funny setup to me. I'd say the guy's a phony. Everybody we talk to, everybody who knows Butler, they all say the same thing.
What's that?
Guy's afraid of his own shadow. He's a milquetoast. Nothing to him. And what'd you get?
Oh, about the same. Every housewife around the neighborhood out where they live, they all told us the same thing. The guy's a henpecked husband. His wife laid down the laws, and he follows them.
Psycho case, huh? Must be.
Don't know how else to explain it. Every time I asked one of their friends if Butler beat up his wife, they laughed in my face. Said he wouldn't even dare cash his check on payday. He had to bring it home. If anybody got beat up, it must have been him.
Yeah, it sure tells a great story. He could make you believe he was a bluebeard.
Did you get any different answers at all, Lopez?
Yeah, one maybe. Yeah, let me take a look. Let's see. Yeah, here. Mrs. Irene Brady. She's an aunt of Mrs. Butler.
Uh-huh.
She said the same thing about Butler, about him being a real mouse and all. And she told us about the dizzy things he'd been doing the last couple of years.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, 4 or 5 times she said he just went out looking for trouble, go in a neighborhood bar and insult some big stevedore, he'd get his face pushed in. He always picked big guys. Didn't seem to mind getting beat up as long as he could insult them.
Not much doubt, I guess. The guy's ready for the nut for him.
Well, apparently he's got a big beef with people who push him around. Maybe he figured if he could take care of just one of those people, he could even up the score.
How do you mean, Joe?
Well, Mrs. Butler, the wife, she's probably the one who gave him the worst time. If he's a little bit off mentally, that'd make him capable of murder, wouldn't it?
Could be, yeah. Maybe the wife poured it on real strong, drove him to it.
Crazy as a coot, that guy. Too many movies, mystery books.
Oh, I got him. Homicide from Merrill. Oh, yes, ma'am. How's that? Oh, when was that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, as soon as we can. Bye. That does it.
What's that?
That was his sister-in-law, Ruth Daly. Just told me she's positive Butler murdered his wife.
What makes you think so?
Number one, she says Butler told her so. He admitted it to her last night.
Well, it doesn't hold any more water than the rest of his stories.
I don't know. The Daly girl says she's positive she's got the evidence to prove it.
What's that?
A murder weapon. Bloodstains all over it.
4:45 p.m. Ben and I got in the car and drove out to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Butler, where we found the missing woman's sister waiting for us on the front stairs. She told us she'd been doing some kind of checking of her own through the house that afternoon. In going over the attic, she said she'd found a claw hammer hidden under a loose board in the attic floor. She said the hammer was covered with what appeared to be dry blood stains. She took us inside, up the stairs, to the attic.
Careful of the steps, officers. It's an old house getting ready to fall apart.
Yeah. Watch the step here, Joe.
Yeah, I'm all right. Go ahead.
Light's good and bright. That's how I happen to see the loose boards over here.
Mm-hmm. Did you pick up the hammer, Miss Daly?
No. I started to, but then I remembered about fingerprints and things. Just where I found it. Didn't touch it.
Hey, you want a pencil, Joe? Maybe you can get it in the claw there.
No, I think we can see it right where it is.
Let's see. Could be, huh? Bloodstain?
Well, it sure looks like it. From the handle here, all over the head of the hammer.
I knew it. I knew there was something wrong the day she disappeared.
Hey, look at this, Joe. I just noticed. These stains on the floor. Whole trail of them, see? Lead right for the door.
We better get the crime lab on and have Lee Jones run a benzodine test on him. What time does he usually get home from work, Miss Daly, your brother-in-law?
About 6 o'clock. Don't know about today, though.
How do you mean? Does he work late on Tuesdays?
No, but I wanted to make sure he wouldn't be home when I came over today. I called the print shop where he works. He's not there. Called again this afternoon. Jimmy hasn't been seen since last night.
Is he in the habit of skipping work?
No, he never does. I called every one of his friends I know of. Bernice's friends, too. I called them. The places he hangs around, nobody's seen him. Not since last night, since you talked to him.
And you got no idea where he might be?
No. Just like Bernice. He disappeared.
You're in the statistician's office of a Metropolitan Police Department.
Have you made the run on this one? WMA, 5'7", 160 pounds. Suspect is left-handed, operates on foot.
We punched up the master. The cards are in the machine. We'll make the run now.
Okay, fine.
There are many suspects to choose from. You're looking for one.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the one we want.
When you have a choice to make, you want to be sure. And you can be sure of Fatima quality. That's why we ask you to compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Side by side, Fatimas are the same in length and circumference. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance as other king-size cigarettes.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma. Remember, Fatima gives long cigarette smokers all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. Next time, insist on the best. Buy Fatima. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Tuesday, June 10th, 5:20 p.m. Ben got on the phone and called around town to check further on the whereabouts of James Butler, the husband of the missing woman. No luck. We called the office, and they got out a broadcast and an APB on Butler. We drove downtown to the crime lab, gave him the claw hammer that we'd found in the Butler's attic, and asked him to run a benzodine test on the stains. We'd also made arrangements for Lee Jones to run similar tests on the stains we'd found on the floor of the attic. 3 days passed. Butler was gone. There was no sign of him. The search was intensified. Another 3 days went by. Monday, June 16th, we got an answer on the APB. A phone call from the chief of police in Tulare, California.
Yeah, James Michael Butler, WMA, 33 years, 5'7", 128 pounds. Blonde hair, hazel eyes. Hey, you got a North Hancock Street address down there, that right?
Yeah, that sounds like the man we're looking for.
He's a real weird one, Friday. Caused a little trouble at one of the taverns up here last night. Kept picking fights with the biggest truck drivers he could find. We locked him up after his third fight. He entered jail in an uproar all night. Wild one.
What'd he do?
Well, shouting all over the place. Couldn't do anything with him.
Uh-huh.
Keeps telling everybody how smart he is.
Yeah?
Says he killed his wife, but nobody's ever going to find out.
James Butler was returned to Los Angeles, where he underwent further interrogation in addition to a psychiatric test. The test showed that he was definitely abnormal, but he was still judged mentally competent. The crime lab's tests on the bloodstains found on the hammer and on the floor of the attic in the Butler's home revealed that the stains were made by animal blood, not human. We questioned Butler about it, but we failed to get him to even admit he knew anything about the stains. He was released from custody, but he was kept under surveillance. A week passed. 2 weeks. Nothing developed. Still no sign of the missing woman, Bernice Butler. Still no definite sign of foul play in connection with her disappearance. No definite sign that her husband was criminally involved in any way. Considering all the angles of the case, we were still inclined to figure that he fitted in somewhere. He had some direct hand in his wife's disappearance. We stayed on it. Nothing happened. On June 26th, the twin sister of the missing woman, Ruth Daly, met Ben and I at the office and laid out a plan she had in mind. She insisted we try it.
You mean you want to work on his emotional nature and try to get some kind of an admission out of him? Is that the whole idea?
That's it, Sergeant. I know what a nut he is about being dramatic. I know it'll work.
Well, it's possible, yeah. How do you figure to set it up?
It won't be very hard. For one thing, you know my sister Bernice and I look quite a bit alike. People always take us for one another.
Yeah.
You can get Jimmy out of the house at night for some reason or other. I'll slip in and go upstairs and put on one of the dresses Bernice used to wear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit there in the upstairs bedroom with just the hall light on. Just enough light so he can see me when you bring him upstairs. I'll even bring over Bernice's pet cat she had, Siamese. He always hated the cat.
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not quite sure about it.
Well, it might be worth a chance. It's not too orthodox, but maybe it'll work.
If I know Jimmy, it'll work, Sergeant. If you can just warm him up to it ahead of time before you bring him upstairs. When he sees me sitting in that room with a cat, I know he'll think it's Bernice. We're bound to get some kind of reaction. That's better than we're doing.
Yeah? What do you think?
Sounds like a movie script. I don't know. It's like she says, I guess. We're bound to get a reaction.
I know it'll work. I'm sure of it.
Joe?
All right, let's give it a try. The following night, a few minutes before 8 o'clock, Ben and I got James Butler away from his house on the pretext of taking him downtown for further interrogation. We delayed long enough to make sure that Ruth Daly, the sister of the missing woman, had plenty of time to get into the house, change her clothes, and take her place in the upstairs room with her sister's pet Siamese cat. Then we started back for the house. We'd made arrangements to have Brian and Lopez from Homicide standing by, concealed in the immediate vicinity of the house in case they were needed. 11:05 p.m. While we drove him back toward his home, Butler was talkative, but not too relaxed. It was the same line we'd heard before, how tough he could be when he wanted to, the same hints that he was an undiscovered killer, one of the more talented professionals in the deadly circles of the underworld.
I came from Illinois originally, Cicero. You guys know how it is back there. You have to stay right up on your toes.
Yeah. How long you been out here now, Butler?
You expect me to tell you that? I'm wise the way you guys work. You're not going to get me on questions like that one.
I understand you do quite a bit of reading, Jim. You come across anything good lately?
Nah, nothing lately. All the good books, they've already been written. Edgar Allan Poe, Stevenson, de Maupassant, Gogol. They know how to tell a good murder story. These new guys are a waste of time. Reading, that's all reading. That's what I like to do. Not that modern junk, only the best. You take some of Poe and Stevenson, for instance. I know those guys.
That's so.
Sure, I know their stuff well enough to tell you. I got whole pages memorized. How'd you like to hear some? Stevenson made it.
All right, go ahead.
I have to belie my nature. All men do. All men are better than this disguise that grows about and stifles them. You see, each dragged away by life like one whom bravos have seized and muffled in a cloak. If they had their own control, if you could see their faces, they would be altogether different. They would shine out for heroes and for saints. I am worse than most. Myself is more overlaid. My excuse is known to me and to God. But had I the time, I could disclose myself. That's out of Stevenson, you know. Pretty smart fellow, huh?
Yeah, sure is. You got a pretty good memory.
I read those books all the time. Nothing better. Is the house all right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, maybe I'll see you later, huh? Thanks for the ride.
Well, I'll tell you, we'd like to come in the house with you if you don't mind, Butler. One or two things we'd like to check over, if that's all right with you.
It's all right, sure. Guess you ought to know by this time, huh? Nothing I'd hide in that house that you'd ever want to find. Come on, let's go.
Sure dark out, isn't it? A little bit chilly.
Yeah. What do you want to check over in the house?
Oh, just one or two things. Just routine, Jim. We won't keep you long.
Guess I ought to be a little burned at you cops by now, huh? Getting all this rousting. How about laying off pretty soon? Maybe I am getting a little burned. If you can prove something on old Jimmy Butler, prove it. If you can't do it, let him alone.
Mm-hmm. We're just tying up a few loose ends here, Jim. There's nothing to get excited about. What's the matter? Did you get your front door key?
I got it. My business, you learn not to forget anything. Can't afford to forget.
Yeah, it's quite a big place you got, Butler. You stay here all by yourself?
That's the way I like it, by myself. If you want to look at anything, you can look now. When you're through, I got some bourbon in the cellar. I keep a big booze cellar, you know. All first-rate stuff. What's the matter?
Oh, nothing, Jim. Thought I heard a cat someplace, did you?
No cats in this house. What do you mean you heard a cat? I hate the lousy things. I wouldn't have one.
Didn't you tell us once your wife had a cat? I think it was you. You didn't like it much, did you?
Killed the lousy thing. Got an axe and killed it. Dumb wife of mine used to drive me crazy with it. Cat hair all over the place. You know how it is. Got an axe and killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There it is. I thought I heard it. Guess you got another one, huh, Butler?
I'll get rid of that thing. I'll find him and get rid of him right now. Upstairs.
I suppose the house makes you think of your wife quite a bit, doesn't it, Jim?
What?
Well, I mean, you spent so much time in it together, you and Bernice. It's got quite a few memories for you, I guess, huh?
Find that thing if it takes all night. I'll get the axe and I'll find the thing.
It's up here, all right. Maybe down the hall there.
Bernice's room. She had the cat. What's it doing here? There's no reason for it.
Could have wandered back in.
Can't we get more light in this hallway? I can't see anything. Cat could be anywhere. What's it doing here alone? The cat was always with Bernice, never left her.
Oh, sounds to me like it's just around here, maybe through that door there. You think?
It's Bernice's room. I killed the lousy cat. He couldn't be in there.
Oh, might be it's just a cat out in the streets now, out in the side alley, maybe, huh?
Mm-hmm. Probably not even in the house. Take a look in the room here. Oh. No, it ain't real. She's not there. She's not there.
Don't hurt the cat. Not the poor cat, Jimmy. Don't kill him. Not both of us. Don't kill the cat, please. Don't kill two of us.
You go away. You go away. You're not there. It's a fake. You're not there, Bernice.
Please, Jimmy. Not both of us. Don't kill both of us.
Some kind of a trick. Now, you go away, Bernice. You're dead and I killed you. You're downstairs. You're in the ground. You're deep in the ground. I killed you. You can't be sitting here.
Please, Jimmy. Please.
All right, Butler, come here.
No. Get away. You get away from me. She's downstairs. She's in the ground. I'll show you. You can't trick me. I'll show you.
Stop him, Ben. Stop him. Well, I can't.
Dear God.
Come on, Ben, downstairs.
Yeah. I tried to grab him. Tried to. He broke away. Yeah.
Lopey. Here, Joe. Here.
Did you see it, Lopey?
Yeah. Good drop from the window. He came fast.
Yeah.
Not too pretty, huh?
Must be something, huh? How about getting the doctor?
Yeah, he lost the doctors when he hit that sidewalk. Only one thing left, I know.
Yeah?
Call a priest.
In his suicide leap from the top story of his house, James Butler died instantly on the pavement below. Afterwards, when the reports were made out and the deputy coroner removed the body, a special detail of men was sent out to help probe the grounds around the Butler home and also the ground directly beneath the house. The search was thorough. The ground was dug up foot by foot, and we found nothing. Butler's last admission before his death that he'd killed his wife and buried her in the grounds adjoining the house seemed to be as empty and worthless as some of the other stories that he told us. The painstaking search for the body of James Butler's wife went on. We found nothing. Alive or dead, there was still no trace of her. Butler's friends and relatives held a modest funeral for him, and he was buried in a small cemetery south of the city. In Missing Persons Bureau, there were still no leads on the case of Bernice Butler. It was still open. Summer finally got to an end. The fall season came and went, and then Christmas and the holidays, and then back into January and February. On a rainy morning early in March, almost a year to the very day when the case started, we got a communication from San Francisco. It had come to the notice of the police through the county health department.
In regard to your APB of June so-and-so last year, this is to inform you that Mrs. Bernice Butler has been a patient in the tubercular ward, County Hospital, San Francisco, since June 16th of last year. Apparently, her case was considered critical from the day she was admitted to the hospital. Last Thursday, she succumbed to the illness. Identification was established, next of kin notified, but no one claimed the body. She was buried at county expense. I trust this may aid you in establishing facts pertinent to her disappearance. Well, how about that?
Well, it doesn't figure, does it?
Sooner or later, you get them all. How would you figure out that night we had Butler at the house? I mean, we had his sister-in-law in there, and he thought he saw his wife?
Oh, who knows? Suppose he really had himself talked into when he thought he committed 100% murder? Yes, he thought about it long enough till he convinced himself. Must have worked out something like that inside his mind.
Mm-hmm. Imagine he lived right through it. Figured he really killed her. When it came for the punishment, he's ready to buy that. There wasn't any way out, so he jumped.
Yeah, mixed up can it get, huh?
That's too bad. All things considered, I guess he loved her quite a bit.
Well, it doesn't seem to matter now what he did. Wasn't much of a chance either way.
How do you mean?
Well, the girl, TB on one side, maybe murder on the other.
Yeah.
Either way, she had to die.
The story you've just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On March 9th, the meeting was held in the office of Captain of Homicide, Police Department, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that meeting.
And now here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, we've spent about 2 of the past 30 minutes telling you why so many smokers coast to coast have switched to king-size Fatima. And they really have. Just listen to some of these brand-new sales figures. I'll give you a few of them state by state, alphabetically, just as they're listed here. Fatima sales up 92%, up 72%, up 107%, up 192%, up 69%. And so it goes, up and up. Thousands and thousands of king-size cigarette smokers are changing to Fatima, and there's a reason. Fatimas cost no more than the cigarettes you're now smoking. They filter the smoke exactly the same long distance as other king-size cigarettes. Yet there's a big difference. Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. Buy 'em tomorrow in the golden yellow package. Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
After locating Mrs. Bernice Butler in the tubercular ward in San Francisco County Hospital, final disposition was made of her case. Her late husband, James Butler, was cleared of any connection with her disappearance. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.
The story you're about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Juvenile Bureau. A series of crimes suddenly starts among teenage children in your city. Robberies, burglaries, bodily assault. There doesn't seem to be any reason for it. The crime wave grows. Your job? Stop it. In Fatima, the difference is quality.
That's right. Fatimas are different. They're extra mild.
Yet king-size Fatima costs no more than the cigarette you're now smoking.
And because of its quality, more smokers are now insisting on Fatima than ever before.
You see, Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos, superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
So compare Fatima yourself today. You'll find Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Remember, the cost of Fatima is the same as the cigarette you're now smoking.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, April 10th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of Juvenile Bureau. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain Stein. My name's Friday. It was 10:27 p.m. when I got to 1335 Georgia Street, second floor, the squad room.
Joe, that you?
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, half a minute.
All right.
Get my photo on here.
Did you leave a note for McNamara?
Yeah, all set.
All right, let's hurry, huh?
Yeah. Same neighborhood we had the trouble Monday night?
Sounds like the same gang, too.
These kids are sure moving fast.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What is it this time?
Movie theater on West Fremont, small neighborhood house.
Oh,
They had a crowd of 15 to 20 kids in there tonight. Mixed group, boys and girls. For no reason at all, they started to tear the place up.
They do much damage?
Well, I don't know. We can see when we get there. He told me on the phone the theater manager tried to quiet the kids down. Half a dozen boys piled all over him. One of them pulled a knife. They tore up a couple of seats up in the balcony, moved out into the lobby, smashed mirrors and lamps. They beat up one of the ushers.
Lousy little punks.
Where'd you park the car?
Straight back. I'd give a right arm to know how this thing got started. We've never had much trouble from the kids in that neighborhood out there, not till this last month. Seem to be going crazy.
Well, it's not getting any better. Burglaries, car thefts, wrecking property.
Somebody's going to come out on the short end if it keeps up. It's got to happen.
Maybe it already has. When they were ripping up that theater lobby tonight, one kid got hurt.
What happened?
It's a 14-year-old boy. In the mix-up, he got shoved through a display case, plate glass.
Cut up pretty bad?
His eyes. They're not sure he'll see again. In police work, the standard law of cause and effect works like it does for everything else. When a crime's committed, there's a cause behind it. There's a reason for it. And when a group of normally well-behaved kids in an average residential neighborhood start running wild, there's got to be a reason for that, too. A month before, a rash of auto thefts, petty stealing, and public disturbances had broken out suddenly in the particular neighborhood. All of the incidents were traced directly to the teenagers in the area. Why the kids had suddenly decided to run wild, we didn't know, but the amount and the nature of the violations kept getting more serious. Juveniles who'd previously been picked up for petty thefts and placed on probation were now committing burglaries. Auto thefts in the area had jumped 20%. Misconduct and drunk charges against the teenagers, girls and boys alike, increased by the week. We had a fair idea what the root of all the trouble was, but so far we hadn't been able to trace it. 10:45 p.m. We got to the neighborhood movie theater on West Fremont, and we went inside. The lobby was a shambles. 2 large mirrors had been shattered, lamps and sofas overturned and broken. The lobby candy counter had been wrecked completely. The glass showcases were caved in. The popcorn machine was smashed. The soft drink cooler turned on its side. The last showing of the feature picture was still going on. We interviewed the theater manager in the lobby, a Mr. Clyde Barton.
They got real foul-mouthed. 1 or 2 of the girls, too. Some of the language I wouldn't even use at a stag party. I got so mad I grabbed 2 of the noisy ones by the neck and told them to get out. That's when it broke loose.
Well, what exactly happened?
The whole crowd of them jumped out of their seats and piled on me. I fell back down against the stairs and I started swinging. I'll tell you the truth, Sergeant, I was scared. I didn't know what to make of them. They seemed like a pack of animals, wild. I happened to hit this one kid and I saw him pull out a knife and come at me.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't take me too long to get out of there. Kids or not, when a bunch of them like that come after you, you run.
Yes, sir. You called for the police as soon as all this happened?
You bet I did. Just as soon as I could get out into the lobby and into my office. I locked the door. I could hear them tearing the place up outside.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at that. Smashed up everything in sight. I have to have something like this happen. Look at this candy stand.
Well, how about some of the kids you recognized in that crowd, Mr. Barton?
Oh, say, the last show's ready to break. Folks are going to be coming out. You want to step back here into my office? We can talk there. Be out of the way.
That'll be fine,
son.
And here we are. Pull up a chair for yourself, officer.
Sure, thank you.
I just got the feeling there's something radically wrong going on with those kids.
This is the first time you've ever had any trouble of any real size, is that right?
Yeah. Well, once in a while the kids fool around in the show talking loud, you know, but nothing like this. Oh, see, Fred, my usher, and the way they messed him up, brutal. And that little 14-year-old they shoved through the glass showcase. Going to be a real mess if he doesn't pull through.
I was going to ask you, sir, about the kids in that crowd you recognized. You happen to know any of their names?
Sure thing. I made a list of them while you were on the way over here. I got a half dozen of them or more. That's another thing I can't understand.
Yeah, what's that, sir?
When these kids start running wild, no matter what they do, they don't seem to care if they're recognized or not. You'd think if they wanted to raise the devil, they'd go over to some other neighborhood, some place where people didn't know them. They just don't seem to care.
Yes, sir. We've had the same report from a couple of other business people in the neighborhood here. Mr. Barton, you probably have a pretty fair opportunity to watch the kids around here from time to time. I mean, running the theater here and everything.
I sure do. Most of them are in here once a week anyway. Some of the kids I've known since they were in knee pants.
Well, have you any idea at all what's behind all this trouble? I mean, any real indication?
Maybe I'm just the suspicious kind, but I've got an idea, all right. Here, I'll get that list of names for you at the same time. There they are. 7 names in all. Every one of those kids was in that gang tonight. I can give you a hand tracking down their addresses.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-huh. Something else. Here's what I was talking about.
What's this, sir?
In that scramble in the lobby tonight, this little box fell out of one of the kids' pockets. One of the ushers picked it up, brought it into me. Have a look inside.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
Uh-huh.
I don't know too much about it, Sergeant, but I got a hunch. I don't think I made a mistake.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, sir, no mistake. It's marijuana. We finished interviewing the theater manager, Clyde Barton, and then we talked to the usher, a Donald Masters, who recovered the small box containing the marijuana from the floor of the lobby. He told us he recognized the young fellow who dropped the box, but he wasn't sure. He said the boy's name was Harold Everson, one of the names which appeared on the list which the theater manager, Mr. Barton, had given us. Half an hour later, Ben and I located the Everson boy's home. It was a two-story frame colonial-style house in a better-than-average section of the area. The boy's father answered the door, a Harold Everson Sr. We told him what we wanted.
A little late to be making routine calls, don't you think? People have to get their sleep. Why can't you let it wait until morning?
It's not a routine call, Mr. Everson. I'd like to see your son, if he's home.
Harry? What do you have to see him about?
Well, do you have any idea where your boy spent his time tonight, sir?
He said he was going down to the gym, play a little basketball, and he was going to the library. It's a school night. He had studying to do.
I think maybe you ought to keep a little closer check on your son, sir. That's not the way we get it.
What are you getting at? I trust my boy. He said he was going to the gym and then to the library. He's got no reason to lie about it.
They had a minor riot at the neighborhood movie down on West Fremont tonight. A gang of high school kids ran wild and wrecked the place.
What's that got to do with Harry?
A couple of people recognized him among the gang of kids. They said he did his share of wrecking along with the rest of them.
Couldn't be. It's a lie. Harry didn't go to the show tonight. He told me when he got home. He even had his books with him. He spent the night at the library.
I'd like to have you take a look at this, Mr. Everson.
Huh?
This box here. Would you recognize this at all?
Well, yeah. Same kind of box my stomach pills come in. Got a little acid condition in my stomach. I take these pills for it. What's all this have to do with Harry?
I'm going to open the box for you, Mr. Everson.
I don't get it. What is this stuff?
Someone saw your son drop the box in the lobby of the theater tonight. The box contains marijuana.
It's stupid. It couldn't be right. I haven't got that kind of a boy. I know it isn't right.
Do you mind if we talk to your son? Maybe he can explain it for us.
Just a minute. I'll get him down here.
All right, sir.
Have a chair if you want.
Thank you.
Sure a nice place, huh, Joe?
Yeah, it's beautiful furniture, isn't it?
There's nothing like period furniture. Never goes out of date. Be just as much in style 10 years from now as it is today.
Mm-hmm. We better be sure and tag by Georgia Street Hospital on the way back and see how that kid's doing. You know, the one that was hurt at the show.
Oh, yeah. Huh?
This is my boy, Harry, officers.
Oh, Harry.
Hello. How are you, son?
Harry just told me, officers, he doesn't know what this is all about. He was at the library, like I said.
Well, sure, I was there till they closed. Somebody made a mistake. I wasn't at the show tonight.
Harry, do you know Mr. Barton, the man who runs the theater?
Yeah, I know him. Why?
Well, he swears you were there tonight. So does one of the ushers.
Who?
Boy by the name of Donald Masters. He says he knows you pretty well.
I don't know any Donald Masters.
You go to the same high school together, son. You're in the same class.
I told you I don't know any Donald Masters.
What about this, Harry?
Huh?
This box here. Do you recognize this?
No.
What's the matter, son?
What is it, Harry? What's wrong with you?
Nothing. I don't know whose it is. It's not mine.
It was lost in the lobby of the theater tonight. Masters says he saw you drop it.
He's lying. I hate the kid's guts anyway. He's lying.
Thought you said you didn't know him, son.
What's wrong with you? What are you shaking for? What kind of a story are you trying to tell?
I didn't mean it, Dad. The kid got the stuff for me. I didn't mean to get it. I didn't mean to, Dad.
It's beginning to look like I'm the dummy of the family. Huh?
Take it easy, Mr. Everson.
Harry, you're a liar.
The kid got the stuff for me. That is the truth. I didn't buy it.
You want him downtown, officer?
Afraid so, Mr. Everson. I'd like to have you come down with him.
Get your clothes on. Go back to your room and get your clothes on.
Okay, Dad.
Hard to believe. My son using marijuana. I can't tell you how I feel.
I'm afraid there's going to be more folks feeling the same way before this is cleaned up.
It'd be different if Harry didn't have a chance, but good home, good training. The boys had the best I could give him.
Yes, sir.
Wife and I, we never thought we had a worry in the world as far as Harry was concerned.
Yes, sir. Maybe that's why it happened. Before we left the Everson house, we checked the boy's room and came up with another small box full of marijuana, which he'd hidden back in his closet. Besides Everson and his son, Harry, more than a half a dozen other teenagers who'd had a part in the theater brawl were rounded up and taken downtown along with their fathers for interrogation. By the time we finished our questioning and the teenagers had finished talking, we had most of the story pieced together. A story that had the parents so amazed that half of them thought the youngsters were making it up. The pattern was familiar enough for us to know that they were telling the truth. Almost 2 months before, word had gone around among the teenagers in the neighborhood that marijuana, along with various stimulating drugs, was to be had easily and in quantity for anybody who wanted them. Word was passed around that it was the new thing to do, the smart thing to do if you wanted to keep up with the crowd. In questioning the Everson boy, we found that he seemed to know more about the history and operations of the narcotics campaign in the neighborhood than the other boys did.
I know one of the guys who first showed up with the stuff. Name's Johnny Demring. He's about my age, 17. I used to know him pretty well.
How do you mean he was the first to show up with this stuff, Harry? What kind of stuff?
Marijuana. Some of the other things, you know, yellow jackets, goofballs. More the kids go for them than they do for marijuana.
Do the youngsters know what these goofballs are made of, son? Do they know what they are?
Well, it's dope, I guess. Narcotics. The kids get a big kick out of them. I guess that's all they care.
Mm-hmm. This Johnny Demring, does he sell the stuff around the neighborhood, Harry?
Yeah, he was the first one. He's got a couple of other kids selling for him now. A couple of them are girls. They sell a lot for him. Johnny makes pretty good money.
Yeah, I guess he does. Where does he get the stuff from, do you know?
No, I wouldn't know that. Someplace downtown. Johnny knows a guy. He's never told anybody where he goes to meet the guy. Nobody ever goes with him.
Was Johnny at the show with you tonight?
No, he doesn't hang around with the kids much anymore. He's getting a little big time, I think. He's got his own car and a good-looking girlfriend downtown. Says he's going to quit school next month.
Mm-hmm. Where does Johnny live, son? Can you tell us?
I don't know the address right off. I can check it in the phone book for you.
How about the kids Johnny gets to sell the stuff? Can you give us their names?
Yeah, okay. I think I can remember who they are. You going to bring Johnny in and talk to him?
That's the idea, yeah.
I don't know if you're going to find him right away. He probably heard about the trouble tonight, and Johnny's a pretty smart guy. I don't think you'll find him very easy.
I think we'll find him.
Nobody knows much about him. He never talks about what he's doing. He never tells anybody anything. Pretty smart guy.
He told you. How smart was that? Complete statements were taken from each of the youngsters we brought in for questioning, and then in practically all cases they were released into the custody of their parents pending action by the juvenile court. With the information we had at hand, it took us the better part of 4 days to round up everybody involved in the narcotics distribution system, which had been set up among the teenagers in the neighborhood by 17-year-old Johnny Demring. As for the Demring boy himself, he couldn't be found. We checked with his family, his relatives, his friends, all his known associates. We got out a warrant for him. Then we checked the car that he owned through DMV. We got out a warrant for that. No sign of the boy. Narcotics detail gave us a hand and got their informants busy trying to track down the source of the dope for which the Demring boy had been the only neighborhood distributor. We knew it went far beyond him. It reached to the same vicious men who make their money off the hopeless adult drug addict, the same vicious men who today are trying to build a new market for their wares among the young people of this country. Tuesday, April 29th, 2:30 p.m.
I'll get it.
Right.
Juvenile Bureau, Romero. Oh, yeah, Brady. Yeah, huh? That's right. What's his name? Yeah, okay, right away. Right. It's Brady from Narcotics. They figure they got our man.
The Demring boy?
No, the guy who pushed the stuff to Demring. Mm-hmm. His name is Jocko Harris. They found him in the county hospital this morning.
Yeah.
Somebody got a hold of him 2 nights ago and gave him a good working over. If we're lucky, we'll make it.
What do you mean?
He's not supposed to last out the day.
2:35 p.m. Ben and I left the office and went immediately to the county hospital, where we were allowed to briefly interview the narcotics suspect, Jocko Harris. He was in a critical condition with a fracture of the skull. He gave us a statement in the form of a dying declaration. He admitted being the contact man for 17-year-old Johnny Demring, and he admitted also that he had kept the boy supplied with enough narcotics to keep the neighborhood teenage demand for the stuff fully satisfied.
Seemed like a good kid. Never thought he'd turn.
What do you mean, Jocko? How'd he turn?
Why do you think I'm here?
You mean he's the one who worked you over?
Yeah.
Where is he, Jocko? Do you know?
No.
Do you know where he's staying? Do you have any idea at all?
No. Stole all my stuff. Every ounce.
What was it, heroin?
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah?
Get him. Fast. He's got enough junk to start a war.
You're in a cruiser car of a Metropolitan Police Department. You receive a routine radio call.
All units, attention all units. Pick up and hold for investigation the following vehicle. 1948 Ford, 2-door sedan, black white sidewall tires.
There are many cars that fit this description. You listen for more facts.
This car will have extensive damage to right front end. License number 9 Robert 9 707. In the 7 column, 9 Robert 9 707. KMA 367.
Now you can pin it down to one. It's the same with cigarettes. There are many king-size brands to choose from, but when you know all the facts, you'll make your choice Fatima.
Here are those facts. Fatimas are the same in length and circumference as any other king-size cigarette. 85 millimeters long, 1 1/64 inches around.
And Fatima filters the smoke exactly the same long distance.
But in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Fatima gives you extra mildness, a much different, much better flavor and aroma.
You get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Fatima,
Best of all, king-size cigarettes. Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking. Next time, buy Fatima.
Wednesday, April 30th, 9 a.m. The hunt for 17-year-old Johnny Demring was intensified. To our knowledge, because of the information we'd gained from narcotics peddler Jocko Harris, the teenage youngster had a large store of high-grade heroin, which we knew, because of his inexperience, he was unaccustomed to dealing with. In his hands, the narcotics immediately became a lethal weapon. We knew that Johnny Demring had only one market to deal in, only one type of customer he was acquainted with, the teenager. In previous transactions, we knew that the youngsters received only a low-grade type of narcotic, highly diluted. We knew that if Demring succeeded in dispensing the highly concentrated store that he had on hand, and the juvenile customers he served tried it on themselves, it would very likely result in death. 3 p.m. Wednesday. Despite all our efforts, Johnny Demring and the store of high-grade narcotics which he'd hijacked from Jocko Harris were still missing. Wednesday, 12 noon. We began rechecking every one of the possible sources that might lead us to the suspect. One of them was the boy's mother, Mrs. Frances Demring. We talked to her at work. She was employed as a multigraph operator in the mailing department of a large downtown department store.
Not since the last time you talked to me, Sergeant. I haven't heard a word from my boy. Nothing at all. Have you heard anything?
Well, yes, ma'am, in a way. We've got an idea he's still somewhere in the city. That's why we figured we'd come back and talk to you again.
Have you been in touch with your relatives in town recently, Miss Demring? I mean, those that Johnny might possibly contact?
Yes, there's just my sister and my mother.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess it just wasn't to be right from the start. Johnny's father ran away, you know. Tried my best after that. Never seemed to be enough. Suppose there's no getting away from it. A boy needs a father. You can try all you want. They still need a father, some kind of discipline.
Mm-hmm. How about the relatives you have out of town, Miss Demring? Any word from them at all about Johnny?
No, Sergeant, nothing. Would you excuse me, please? This run here's finished. I have to get it off the machine.
Sure, go right ahead.
Yes, it's a terrible thing, Johnny getting mixed up in all this. Seems no matter how you try, it's never enough. Never enough.
Do you have any idea at all where Johnny would most likely go in town if he didn't want to be seen, Mrs. Demring?
Where'd he go? No, I wouldn't know that, Sergeant. First place, Johnny's never really been in trouble before.
Well, how about Johnny's school friends, ma'am? Would there be any one of them he might possibly contact in the jam?
None that I haven't told you about before, I don't think. Evelyn. She's the only one I suppose Johnny'd go to if he needed help, if he was in trouble.
That's his girlfriend at the high school, isn't it, Evelyn Maxwell?
Yes, that's right. Sweet girl.
How about a girlfriend Johnny was supposed to have downtown somewhere, Mrs. Demring? Would you know anything about her?
Nothing really, no. Her name was Betty, I think.
You have no idea where she lived downtown?
No, I don't, Sergeant.
Well, all right, ma'am. Thank you very much. Appreciate it if you'd notify us if you hear anything about your son at all.
All right, Sergeant. Thank you. Tomorrow's Johnny's birthday, you know. I meant to tell you. Always expect Johnny home on his birthday. Seems no matter where he is, how he's tied up with his school or sports or something, Johnny always makes it home for his birthday.
I see.
I wonder how it'll be tomorrow. He's never missed once. Not once.
Well, if he shows up, I guess you can count on one thing, ma'am.
What's that?
He's going to have to miss next year. 2 p.m. Ben and I picked up a glass of milk and a hot dog for lunch, and then we continued making a check of Johnny Demring's closest friends. Next in line after his mother was Demring's high school girlfriend, Evelyn Maxford. We located her at her home, a tall, attractive brunette, nicely dressed and well-mannered. She seemed unusually nervous as we interviewed her.
I haven't heard a word, Sergeant. I know tomorrow's his birthday. His mother's expecting him home. I know he won't come, though. I'm sure of that.
How are you sure, miss?
Well, I just know that's all.
I'd like to ask you again.
Yes?
Are you sure you haven't heard from Johnny Demring recently in the past 2 days or so?
No, that's what I told you. Don't you believe me?
Do you know why we're so anxious to locate Johnny, Miss Maxwell?
Well, I think so. It's about the narcotics business. You say Johnny had a hand in it. He was selling those things to the kids. I still don't believe it myself.
It's a lot more than that, the way it stands now, Miss Maxwell.
What do you mean?
Well, when he was at school, Johnny was kept supplied with narcotics by a man named Jocko Harris. He's what we call a pusher, kind of an in-between supply man in the narcotics trade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 nights ago, Johnny caught up with this Harris. He beat him up badly enough to send him to the hospital with a fractured skull. And then Johnny stole every bit of narcotics that Harris had in his room. Some of the strongest stuff you can buy on the market. That's why we want Johnny, Miss Maxwell.
I don't think I understand. What does it mean?
It means that most of the teenage kids Johnny's been supplying stuff to have been getting fairly weak grades of narcotics. If you get some of this stuff to them and the kids start taking it, it might prove too strong for them. If they take too much of it, it could kill them outright.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see what we're up against. We've got to find that boy. We've got to find him soon.
Couldn't you talk to his mother? Maybe she could tell you something.
Well, we already have, miss. She couldn't tell us anything. That's why we halfway depended on you.
Why do they have to put it in my lap? Why does it have to be me? I liked Johnny for a while. I don't know what to think now.
Well, have you heard from him, Miss Maxford? Now, there's no reason to be afraid. You'd probably feel a lot worse if something happened to one of the high school kids, wouldn't you? Miss Maxford?
I got a call from him yesterday, Johnny. He wouldn't tell me where he was. I asked him, but he wouldn't tell me.
What else did he say?
He knows everybody's looking for him. He doesn't know about the stuff that he stole, though. I'm sure of that. He doesn't know what it could do.
Did he make any dates with you? Did he want to see you?
Yes, he wants to see me. He wants me to meet him tonight.
Where?
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Yes? I don't know. I don't really. What? 7 o'clock. All right. Yes. Yes, I'll meet you then. All right, goodbye. That was Johnny just then. He wanted to make sure I was going to meet him tonight.
When?
7 o'clock tonight, right near Westlake Park.
Which side, miss?
The west side, Sergeant. I hope to God it's not true.
What's that?
The narcotics he stole from that man. You said they were powerful?
Yes, we did.
Johnny's been taking them for 2 days.
6:45 p.m. Together with 2 other men from Juvenile Bureau, Hurst and Ty, we drove near the appointed spot along the lake in Westlake Park where Evelyn Maxford's meeting with the teenage suspect, Johnny Demering, was to take place. We staked out at a reasonable distance, and Miss Maxford went ahead to the meeting spot. As far as we could see, there was no sign of Demering. Somebody on the opposite side of the lake was playing a phonograph. The music came over faintly across the water. We watched the Maxford girl cross the long stretch of grass down to the lake. She approached the shore. We saw her stop and look down.
Joe, let's go. Come on. Yeah.
We ran all the way as fast as we could get there. When we got close enough, we found out the reason for the scream. He was lying face up on the ground near the edge of a small clump of trees close to the water. He was a good-looking boy, dark hair, good build. Took only one look, and you knew right away he was too young to be dead. You could argue for a week, but you wouldn't change it. He was dead. The girl stood over him, her face in her hands, crying.
No marks on the body, Joe. None at all.
Well, that must be it, huh? An overdose?
That's the way it looks to me. We better get her out of here, hadn't we?
Yeah. Miss Maxford? Come on, Miss Maxford.
Yes, Sergeant. It's all right. It's all right now.
We'll have one of the other men drive you home. We can take care of whatever has to be done here.
He was a good boy, Sergeant. He was smart. How'd he ever get started in such a thing? How could he ever make such a mistake?
Well, he's got the best excuse in the world, miss.
Yes.
He was 17.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On May 2nd, a coroner's inquest was held at the county morgue, Hall of Justice, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that inquest.
And now here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Friends, it makes us very happy to know that so many of you have switched to king-size Fatimas. Now, this actual sales report I have here shows that in state after state, more people are smoking Fatimas every day. In the first state, Fatima sales are up 97%. The next state sales up 114%. Still another state, 117%. And still another, 69%. Well, those are just a few. Now, in my opinion, that can mean only one thing. That thousands and thousands of smokers, coast to coast, agree with what we've been saying. Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. If you haven't smoked them yet, remember this. Fatimas cost no more than the cigarettes you've been smoking. Fatima gives you all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. So tomorrow, buy Fatima.
At the inquest, the coroner's jury ruled that 17-year-old John Andrew Demering had administered himself an overdose of narcotics and thus had taken his own life. All others involved in the juvenile narcotics ring, a total of 8 persons, were tried and convicted under the State Narcotics Act. They received sentences as prescribed by law and are now serving their terms in the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy, next on NBC.